Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about warehouse operations and how they work and what you should know, what you should ask every time you're looking for a fulfillment center, for a 3PL and so on. So this is the second part of the video about the checklist, so we will continue the discussion and go through the questions that you should ask, but also the aspects that you should consider when it comes to e-commerce operations. Before we go ahead, remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video because this is going to help us grow, but also make sure that you're always updated about my next release. So moving forward, we see here we have few things left. We have outbound, storage and others. So let's look at the outbound. So the first thing that you want to see, not really the first thing, but one of the first things that you want to see is the SLA for order fulfillment, which means what they promise, right? What they're going to, how long it's going to take them to fulfill an order if it's received, for example, before a specific cutoff. How it works is that you have a cutoff, for example, like 8 a.m. or in America it's quite often 12 p.m. So any order received every day before 12 p.m. in the warehouse system. Be careful, not on Shopify, not on your website, but received by the warehouse. Now be careful because there are times where the connection is not working, for example, or you have problems on your website or any other reason. It may be that the customer placed the order before 12, but actually the warehouse received it after 12. That's because there's always going to be a certain period of time in between. Sometimes it could be very little, sometimes it could be very long, like an hour or so, especially whenever there's like a cycle. Not all platforms have a real time, let's say, updates and orders being sent to the warehouse. It goes by cycles. Sometimes it goes every 3 hours, sometimes it goes every hour, sometimes it goes every 30 minutes, sometimes it's real time. But it's not real time, right? It's going to take a few minutes. And this means that if an order is received at 11:50, or if you have thousands of orders per month and you receive 400, 500, 600 orders between 11:45 and 12 or 11:30 and 12, this means that those orders most likely are going to be shipped tomorrow because the warehouse will most likely receive it after 12 p.m. It really depends on how long it takes for the warehouse to receive the order. So it's also good to ask them how long it's going to take from the time an order is placed on Shopify for you to receive it. So how many times a day you take and you fetch orders from my Shopify store, for example, or for any store. And what's the cutoff? If it's possible to have more than one. If it's not 12, can we have another 2? Or can we have a later cutoff to cover more orders and stuff like that? And if you ship same day or next day. And what's going to happen if you don't do it? So make people accountable. And barcode requirement. Any warehouse that doesn't use barcodes to scan products out is, I believe, out of my selection because I want to make sure, unless they have any other way to track inventory properly, but ideally you want to make sure that, first of all, the right products are shipped, and second, that the inventory is deducted correctly and kept correctly. So barcode requirement, generally, whenever you have an order, the warehouse management system should say, okay, that this is in very simple words. Okay, those are the 3 products. Those products have those 3 barcodes. Now scan the barcodes and let's see if they match. And if you have 3 different products, then I expect the 3 different barcodes to match whenever you scan. If it doesn't match, I'm not going to allow you to go ahead. Or if you're scanning twice the same, I'm not going to allow you to go ahead because it means you're shipping 2 times instead of 1 a specific product. So warehouses without barcode requirements, most likely they're going to have issues with inventory unless they can propose you a different way of making sure the right products are shipped and the inventory shipped correctly. So what's the process of barcode scanning, which is what I just said. So the warehouse management system should have like a flag, should flag any wrong barcode scan compared to what's contained in the order. Order accuracy, you should always ask that, like what's the order accuracy that they have, like how many orders they shipped correctly over all the orders that they received. Generally, this should be something like 99% at the very least. Packaging handling, how they handle packaging, like can I send you my packaging? Will you order packaging for me? What are the prices? Ideally, you want to have the options to send them your packaging as well in case you have some fancy packaging. So always ask them what they do about it. If there's any additional fee, most likely there is going to be, and the storage, how it's going to work. Notifications. Of course, if the order is cancelled, not cancelled, what's going to happen? I need to receive a notification. Same if there's something wrong with an order, I should receive a notification. Sometimes it's very common that orders look like incomplete, which means something is missing. It's very common anywhere in the world to provide notifications about orders that have something wrong. So I expect like a notification, whether it's via email, through the platform, ideally both platform and email, because if I don't look at the platform on a daily basis, if I'm traveling, I cannot have a look. At least I can have receive notification, maybe ask another team member to look for it and fix it. Courier pickup times, you want to know when they come to pick up and if it's possible to pick up multiple times a day or another time. Request like additional pickups. What if I have more orders? What if I have an urgent order that I need to send out but it was out of the cutoff? You want to have flexibility. You want to know how it works so that you can accordingly act in case you need any special handling. Fulfillment time. This is also important, like to know when I should expect orders to be shipped, like when they're going to be marked as shipped, because sometimes I see a lot of confusion because they're like, oh, this order is supposed to be shipped, it hasn't changed the status yet on my Shopify, it's still unfulfilled. You have to consider the time zone, like you may have a fulfillment center in a time zone that is different than yours. And of course, just because the courier picked up the order right now doesn't mean that the status already changed. It may take a couple of hours before the status is updated. For the exact same reason that we said before, like it takes time from when the order has been placed to the time it's actually received by the warehouse. There's going to be a cycle most likely, which means the order is placed, but every hour the warehouse fetches the orders, or every 3 hours the warehouse fetches the orders. So it really depends on that as well. And especially because when you fulfill, you send back notification all at once, right? The warehouse will fulfill, which means will mark the orders as fulfilled on Shopify in bulk. So it will do it for all the orders that they shipped, which means that the processing time might take a little bit longer because it's a lot altogether. Tracking number and tracking updates availability. You want to see the tracking number right away and see and at least know how it works with the tracking updates and the availability. Like for example, in Hong Kong, it's very common to see tracking updates a couple of hours after the order has been picked up, saying that it has been picked up by the courier. But for other couriers, maybe the next day, it really depends. So it's good to ask for, let's say, some clarifications around that. The most important ones probably is outbound capacity and the shifts for the same day, which means how many orders you can ship without notice, because then we have how many orders you can ship with notice. So outbound capacity is important. I need to understand how many you can ship for me on a daily basis, like in a normal capacity, like in a normal day. Oh, we can ship up to 500-600 orders per day. Okay, so if I have 300, okay, that's just me. How about the others? Is 600 just for me? Is 600 for all the clients combined? Because if that's the case, it's kind of concerning. I'm already half of it. And if there's any capacity for shifts, if the warehouse has shifts, and if those shifts actually cost me more. Because if I do have an additional shift at night, my orders will be picked up tomorrow in the evening, then it does make sense. I'll just wait tomorrow. But of course, this is important whenever I have a surge of orders, like a Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You may want to use different shifts because tomorrow I'm going to have the same amount of orders and I'll not be able to fulfill everything again. So in this case, you want to have some more shifts, and especially understanding how much you're going to pay, if you're going to pay, if you're going to pay for those shifts. And if I need to increase my volumes, that I estimate that I will receive way more orders because of a promotion, because of the season, the period, it's peak season, it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's Christmas, and so on. How many days of notice I need to give you to tell you I want to ship 1,000 orders per day instead of 300. So most likely they want to know in advance because they need to put in place more people. So they need to secure manpower. And then parcel insurance, if there's any option to insure the parcels. And ideally, it's not only parcel insurance, it's also warehouse insurance overall. Like you want to make sure that they do have at least a basic insurance in case something happens to the warehouse. At least your goods, you will get something from your goods that are stored there. But parcel insurance is also a good option if you can book through their platform directly, or if you need to have your private parcel insurance. I assure you it's kind of expensive unless you use the courier insurance if available. And then we have storage. So you want to know how they calculate the storage, because many people don't really understand this. So it's always very it's questionable. So it's good that before you start, you kind of make a little bit of, let's say, homework and try to understand how much you're going to pay in storage. Because when you look at the rate card, it generally looks like, wow, this is not expensive, this is good, okay. But consider that most likely, whenever you send shipments, whenever you send an inbound, if they don't put it on the shelves, most likely you're going to pay by pallet. And by pallet means you're going to occupy that space, and you need to consider in the storage the pallet itself, not only the goods on the pallet, but the pallet itself. So that may increase a little bit the price. And I suggest you request let's say an example of let's say your first month's storage, considering X amount of orders per day, for example. Ask them an example of calculation, how they will calculate the storage based on this amount of goods sent today and with an average of 200 orders per day. So you can see the calculation, and whenever they charge you for storage, you can double check based on the amount of stocks and CBMs that you send them, cubic meters or square feet, it depends on how they calculate it. And basically, yeah, you are able to kind of cross-check for the storage that you get to pay, because it's not an easy thing to do. You can't really question, once they charge you, you can't really question unless you really understand how it works and make your own homework, and then understand what's included in the storage. When they start counting, how they manage to calculate by pallet on shelves if they have both. Because some warehouses may offer you both on shelves for certain products and on pallet for bigger products. So how do they calculate the storage? Again, ask for storage calculation for both cases. And what's included? Is that aircon, ambient temperature? What is that? So what's included in the storage? And also, if you have a different rate based on different temperatures or whatever. Minimum storage fee, is there any minimum? Because sometimes once you start working with a warehouse, they may have some minimum fees, which means if you don't ship or you don't do anything, you need to pay minimum this amount per month. Or even if you don't have stocks, there's a minimum storage fee. If you reach the minimum, I don't charge you more. If you don't reach the minimum, you still need to pay me the rent, basically. Storage layout, how it is that on pallet, on shelves. You want to understand if there's any space for additional, let's say, stocks. What's the layout in general? Is that on shelves? Is that on pallets? Because if you're sending just small products, it's probably going to be on shelves. If you're sending later on some bigger products, then you probably will need to keep it on pallets and on the ground. You need to have space for that. That's why you also want to know the maximum storage capacity and backup. Like what's going to happen if you have no more space, but I still have a lot of inventory to send you. Like it's going to arrive a time when the warehouse may be full and you can't send more inventory or you're restricted. So what's going to happen in that case? If you have a lot of orders, they can't support you because they can't store more than that amount of cubic meters, for example. So in that case, is there any other facility that we could use? Is there any other partner? And if we use another partner, how it's going to work? It's going to take responsibility for moving the goods in this other partner warehouse, which is not the one we agreed on, which is not the one we have a contract with. So those questions is something that you should ask. And then return handling process. We already talked about this in the former video. And then we have other stuff like security systems, certifications, the shrinkage compensation. If they lose your product, how much you're going to give you back. And this is generally based on the amount of inventory they store for you and they receive on a yearly basis or even quarterly basis. If there's possibility of overtime, and how much is that? Weekend operations, is there a possibility to have a weekend operations, and what's the price? If they have any bonded or non-bonded warehouse, this is something like to look in maybe the European Union or China. International network of warehouses. Is there any other warehouse we could use in other locations, or we're just limited to the one that we have right now? Some fulfillment centers have multiple locations, some they have just one, and you need to use different platforms and different partners if you want to expand internationally. So having one system with multiple warehouses is actually a good thing. CNI Freight Solutions, it's basically If they have any partners, in case we need to ship bulky items somewhere to a distributor or something like that, if they have the option to support us. Otherwise, we'll need to find someone in the country where we have this warehouse, and that's just going to be a lot of work. Better to outsource to them. Integration availables. What other integrations are available on the tech platform, like Salesforce, Shopify, and other let's say integrations like Amazon. If you do Amazon FBM, then what's the report availability? You want to see reports like inventory report, order reports, and stuff like that, serial codes reports. You want to customize the reports because you may want to check different things. So what's the report availability? Like, how do those reports look like? And IUSS and OSS compliance for the EU. This is something that they should support because commercial invoices should have those numbers. So they should actually collect from you ideally. Importer addresses in case you decide to be the importer on behalf of your customer or something like that. If someone wants to put a specific address for an order, to be able to do that, maybe creating an order manually. It really depends. Dangerous goods basically and compliance, how they deal with that. They know how to handle them. Can they handle them? Like products with batteries. Filter for orders. What if I only want to receive specific orders from Shopify, for example? This is the most common example where you have different locations on Shopify, right? Like you may have a warehouse you may have a place in Hong Kong, a place in the United States. But what if from this warehouse specifically, I just want to receive the orders that I mapped to be shipped from the location in the United States or from the location in Hong Kong? If they don't allow you to filter out, it means they're going to get all the orders that you receive, and that's really dangerous because you may end up shipping them twice. Courier mapping options, like what options are available? This is really crucial because ideally you don't want options like choose the cheapest courier or choose the fastest, because first of all, you may not know the price, and second, you don't know the SLA, you don't know the claims, the insurance, or whatever, you don't know nothing. Because if you let them choose which courier to assign, it means you have no control on the SLA, which means you may only have not control, but you may only know how long it's going to take, because if you choose fastest, it's going to be fastest. But then you have price to consider, but you also need to consider like what happens if the parcel gets lost. Does this courier have insurance? Does this courier offer a return or not? Especially for cross-border, not all solutions except for Express offer return, which means that it's not able to be delivered the order, then it's not going to come back, it's just going to be disposed at destination and you're going to lose the product. So courier mapping options are crucial, not only for price and transit times, but for everything. So you want to have the control and want to be able to choose which one I want to use based on certain criteria. For United States, I want to use this courier up to 1 kilogram and this courier for 5 kilograms and above. You want to be able to choose and have the control, not just let the platform choose based on price or based on transit times or just best option, because what's the criteria to define best option, right? And then if they offer VAS, which means value-added services like kitting, marketing materials, labeling, barcoding, palletization, like anything additional, this really depends on what you need, right? Like if you have any specific need, ask them if they support it. And tracking, as like if there's any local delivery or if you need to move something from the warehouse to the port, can they offer you a truck, basically to relocate with a truck? They often either have their own fleet or they partner with someone. If they can use your own account, if you have your own courier account, if it's supported. And then, of course, if you want to use your account, then you just need to look for a warehouse that supports that. And commercial invoice generations and template, basically. Let's call it like that. You want to be able to, have the commercial invoice generated, of course. You don't want to do anything manually, like customs declarations, because many warehouses, they allow you to do they're very localized, which means ship a lot US to US. But when it comes to cross-border, since not many may do that, it's more like something that is done locally, then you may need to do it, let's say manually or something like that, which is, taking forever and a lot of your time. So you want to have like automations around commercial invoices generations and also the correct template, like the correct way of having those commercial invoices, which let me tell you, a lot of warehouses don't get them completely right. And those the requirements on the commercial invoices may change based on the countries. So that's definitely next level, but it's something you should keep at the back of your mind. And that's pretty much what you should know about warehousing, like how to, let's say, check the performances of the warehouse and how to make informative decisions before choosing a warehouse, because it's not as easy as it may seem. If you're still small, you don't have a lot of orders, that's okay to let it go. But ideally, if you grow, you're going to have troubles. First of all, because it's not easy to just move. You're not going to move from one warehouse to another just like that. And second, you will need to run this again and again until you find the right partner, which is just going to ruin your business, because now you have a bad experience with your current warehouse, and it's going to take time before you find the right one. Maybe you're lucky, but most likely you're not going to be able to find the right warehouse right away. So you will need to either have a compromise with yourself and choose the next best option that you could find in a short period of time, or just keep looking and accept the fact that your current 3PL is not working well. So that's why it's good to run those checks at the beginning. And if it's small, you can go for a boutique 3PL, but ideally you should consider more options so that you run the job once and you have the short-term and long-term solution already figured out. Thanks for watching, I hope it was helpful. Remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video, because this is going to help us grow, but also make sure that you always receive updates about my next videos. See you in the next one!